Good evening. All right, we're going to start the committee meeting now. This is the Land Use and Landmarks Committee meeting. And start with the roll call. So Luis, if you go on, thank you.
Liv Teague,
Here.
Stephen Chesler,
Here.
Bożena Kamiński,
Here.
Ward Dennis,
Here.
Matthew Isaacs,
Here.
Kaylee Kawaguchi,
Here.
Paul Kelterborn,
Here.
Rabbi David Niederman, Austin Fair,
Here.
Isaac Sofer, William Vega, Simon Weiser, Corey Canty,
Here.
Michael Kawotska, Karen Nieves,
Here.
Jorge Salgado,
Here.
Chair, 11 members, remaining.
I just want to mention that Mr. Ichwitz is on here as a member.
Yes.
Mr. Ichwitz? No, he's on, is he on the list of members? No, okay. So, the first item is a landmarks item, so, Jenny, I'm going to refer to you for that. Okay, thank you.
All right, the first item for the landmark committee is referring to 102 Kent Street building. We have a presenter, Principal Gina Nandin, and Thread Collective. Are they here?
You have the microphone right over there?
You have the
You
mic?
can, and you can step.
Oh, okay, okay, thanks.
This is the second time that they are presenting to us. We appreciate that.
That's fine. And the scope changed a little bit. So I'm presenting 102 Kent Street. It's a 4-story townhouse, brownstone, that is missing several landmark sort of elements, like the stoop. It's going from a 4-family to a single family. The owner is restoring the building to a single family home and wants to restore the facade and add back on the stoop. There was a stoop there originally. So the proposal, while there are other elements on the facade, those will be approved at staff level, like the refinishing of the paint on the lower part, the new windows throughout. But here we're looking to have approved the reinstatement of the stoop and the railing, and there will be a set of new doors that match the typical. Looks that. I don't think this works. That's okay. The building was built in 1873 by George Kingsland. All good? Thanks. And he built several buildings in the neighborhood. So on this block, he built 2 other buildings at 144 and 146 Kent Street. So we were looking to those, as well as another precedent on Noble Street. So here you can see the existing condition wherein the stoop was removed. They put on this sort of false front at the entry level, and then we're replacing it with a new entrainment that will be made to look like the brownstone finish of the window detailing in terms of the color and the finish, and then the brownstone stoop and the new doors. The railing at the sort of entryway will remain in existing, but we'll be putting on a new railway along the stoop itself that will match the 4 buildings to the west side. So there'll be this cast iron oval-shaped railing units. images.
Is it so light just because we're close, or is it?
Because the room is so bright.
No, I think we can turn off one of the
One of these
lights.
lights here.
Yeah, we can turn off these lights. Is the superintendent here?
Here you can see the railing design that matches all of the railings adjacent to it. Door design here, your typical brownstone door, double leafed, with large sort of glazing in the front. There you go. A little bit better. It's a little blurry maybe? There we go. Here you can see in the plan, maybe another one. Here you can see in the plan that the entry on the upper floor literally looks like there was a stoop there because as a vestibule, the staircase is designed in a way with a newel post and an entrance into the foyer. So that's evidence that there was an original stoop in terms of the way that the interiors are configured. And that is everything we have. Happy to answer any questions.
The committee members, do you have any questions? I know this project was presented before and we did ask some questions. Move on. All right, Steve makes the motion to approve the design. There is a second from the committee. Okay. Corey.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, and now we need a roll call.
So Richard, who made the motion?
Steve Chesler.
Who's second?
Corey.
Roll call. Del Teague,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler. Yes. Bożena Kamiński,
Yes.
Ward Dennis. Yes. Matthew Isaacs. Yes. Kathleen Kawaguchi,
Yes.
Paul Keltenborg.
Yes.
Rawai Devi Nirman, Austin Fair,
Yes.
Isaac Sofer, William Vega, Simon Weiser, Corey Canty,
Yes.
Michael Kawotska, Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Jorge Salgado,
Yes.
tally is 11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals, motion passed.
And that concludes the landmark portion of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, now on to item 3 and 4, the Monument Point application, and then following that, the 56 Key Walkway Street remapping. So we've asked the applicant to present just a shorter presentation than was given to us at the public hearing, centering on the questions that we asked, that the community and that the board members and committee members asked. Okay, this is not a public hearing. This is a committee meeting. The public is absolutely welcome at all of our committee meetings. As a matter of fact, I beg you all to come all the time, really. But just remember that this is not a public hearing. So just please, be respectful, because the committee now has to have enough time to spend to talk to each other, to ask questions, and to come up with a resolution, because we have to be out of here by 9 o'clock, so, okay, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank the Land Use Committee, board members, and each and every one of you in this room. Whether you support the project, or you oppose the project, or you're still learning the facts, it's clear that you're engaged community members. And community is a key word, right? It's all about the greater good and fighting for the greater good. And what we do in terms of our decisions is lifting everyone and lifting others, right? With projects, it's never going to make everyone completely happy, right? We all come from different lived experiences, different backgrounds, right? Different life circumstances, right? But it's all about the greater good. And most importantly, lifting others, right? So as I meet with different tenant associations, different community-based organizations, right? It's clear that people are struggling with affordability. So I implore all of you, right? For those of us who are fortunate enough to own our homes, right? To have housing security, to have economic security, that are not living paycheck to paycheck, that are not worried about rent on a monthly basis. I implore you to not remove the ladder from below you, right? And look for the greater good of a project. And our ethos is to provide the facts, to take your feedback into consideration, everyone's feedback, hence the 40% affordability.
Excuse me, could you introduce yourself? Are you one of the...
Yep, I controlled the deck the last time. I'm Varun Sanyal from the Gotham organization. I know you inquired about me. We met before. You met with the friends of Bushwick Park. So as I was saying, is that the whole purpose of this is to provide the facts, to hear your feedback, in which a lot of you in this room realize that we do, and to come to a consensus for the greater good. And with that, the next slide. The project site, 40 Quay Street. The MTA will retain ownership. The Gotham organization will be entering into a ground lease, a 102-year ground lease. And remember that the site was zoned for residential, was zoned for housing, as part of the 2005 rezoning. And 56 Quay Street will be owned by the Greenpoint Monterey Museum. And the project as a glance, as I alluded to, 40% affordability. That's 1,150 units, approximately 460 of them affordable at deep SKUs. Unlocking 51,500 square feet of public waterfront access. For the first time in decades, opening that portion of the waterfront in the neighborhood. And connecting to Bushwick Park. We want to see the park come to fruition. We never said no, and we didn't want to. Our project will be additive to create that open, transparent walkway for the entire community to access Bushwick Park. And that is also adding the fact that we're contributing funds for the maintenance of Bushwick Park. Our investment that's upfront for the new MTA facility, and providing critical funding for the MTA. Resiliency, native habitat, and provide the Greenpoint Monterey Museum a permanent home. A permanent home. And this is a mixed income community. The West Building, with approximately 950 apartments, and the East Building, which is an HPD sponsored building, which is 100% affordable. And the Greenpoint Monterey Museum, and a permanent home for the museum. And with that, we'll go to the choices that you have in front of you.
Hello, Simeon Mala from the Gotham organization.
Spell your name, please.
SIMEONMALEH. Today, the MTA's facility obstructs
access to the East River, creating a significant barrier to public access and the delivery of housing as envisioned in the 2005 rezoning. The continued existence of this building does not benefit the public or the longevity of the Bushwick Inlet. These sites have been historically industrial and manufacturing sites with preliminary investigation identifying the presence of contaminated fill. Whether open space or housing is to be built on these sites, remediation and resiliency measures are required. Before anything can be built on these sites, the MTA facility needs to be relocated and existing soils remediated. We will be remediating these sites under the oversight of DEC and OER. The MTA sites have already been submitted to the Brownfield Cleanup Program. Construction and remediation will be completed in close coordination with city and state agencies to ensure work has limited impact on the Bushwick Inlet. We anticipate utilizing mitigation measures similar to those used next door during the construction of Bushwick Inlet Park. Next slide, please. A vote for Monitor Point is a vote for improved resiliency and environmental repair. Without Monitor Point, the shoreline will continue to erode and be exposed to future flooding. With Monitor Point, a new bulkhead will be constructed and the site elevation raised to prevent future flood inundation. The buildings and open space will be constructed to be flood resilient. Without Monitor Point, there will be no public waterfront access. With Monitor Point, 51,500 square feet of new open space will be constructed connecting the Greenpoint waterfront and West Street to the new Bushwick Inlet Park. Without Monitor Point, stormwater will continue to run off into the inlet. With Monitor Point, on-site stormwater management will be implemented in accordance with DEP and DEC standards. Without Monitor Point, soil runoff will continue to settle at the bottom of the inlet, and invasive plant species will continue to flourish and degrade inlet ecology. With Monitor Point, the waterfront will be planted with native species, improving habitat and inlet water quality. Next slide, please. The choice, resiliency and environment. Some technical facts. The site's current grade elevation is approximately 9 feet, is prone to flooding and erosion. A new bulkhead and stabilized edge will be constructed that will mitigate water inundation and erosion. The existing site is subject to a degrading cycle of wave action. New stabilizing features and native plantings reduce future exposure to this cycle. The proposed open space would be designed for universal accessibility. Monitor Point has been carefully designed in response to future sea level rise. Building ground floor levels will be located above anticipated 2080 sea level rise. And all equipment, critical equipment, MEP systems will be located at those ground floor levels and above. Slide, please. I have experience in Gotham. Gotham has a long history of experience constructing within the confines of New York City. We will work closely with you, the community and the community board, NYPD, DOT, DOB, and other city agencies to coordinate logistics and limit community impact during construction. This will include logistics of bike and pedestrian pathways. We will provide regular updates, including maintaining a project's website with construction look-aheads and project contact information. And construction traffic, deliveries, and staging will be managed collaboratively with the community. Thank you. I'll pass it off to my colleague, Brian.
Good evening, everybody. Brian Kelly with the Gotham Organization. First, want to touch upon economic impact. In the last meeting, there was inquiry on economic output and jobs. And so both looking at data from the draft environmental impact statement, as well as a report and analytics from HRNA, a very well-respected economic advisor, the project is expected to generate $1 billion in direct and indirect economic activity. What does that mean in layperson's terms? 600 peak construction jobs, 3,000 cumulatively during the life of construction. Permanent building maintenance jobs working with 32BJ. Transit jobs preserved and expanded. The MTA is not dissipating, it's relocating to a new, all-electric, modern turnkey facility. It's job preservation, it's relocation to an industrial zone, and 70 on-site jobs, both in the museum, local neighborhood retail, and community facility space. That's directly benefiting residents of our city. Next slide, please. We look at the building today, and the front door to either the portal, to new residential entrances, is 2 garage doors. That's the terminus of West Street. And this facility is outdated. It would be inundated with wave action if there was a great storm. The facility no longer meets the MTA's current modern needs. And it's on an industrial site where I heard in the last meeting 25,000 housing units have been built in this community. That's true and a fact. We'll talk more about that. But in order to do anything at Key Street, the MTA needs a new home. Substantially funded privately will build a new 140,000 square foot facility that will house 3 critical functions that serve the city: the emergency response unit, material control, and the mobile wash unit. It's going to eliminate this red blockade to the waterfront. If there's groups that want nothing but park space, this has to go somewhere. If there's folks that want a healthier balance of housing, open space, etc., this has to go somewhere. I can tell you we control the ability, we have a site to move it to. No matter what your opinion is in this room, this is not good. Next slide, please. The museum. We became deeply interested in this because of looking at the opportunity to deliver housing, to deliver open space, and come up with solutions to long-standing issues. But the museum fought long and hard for many years to condemnation. The museum wants to create open space for Friends of Open Space. The museum wants to create a cultural facility for the city, for Brooklynites, and for people who respect the fact that a Union ship was built on this land and launched throughout the Civil War to beat the Confederacy. I applaud that action. I applaud the conviction to fight for what's right and to the historical connection to the community. The museum is going to make itself committed, like it has for many, many years, to community public access to this cultural indoor space and outdoor space. And the zoning action, which we'll talk about more, 50% of the zoning floor area from the as of right versus the future action is going to affordability. So their land is being, aside from open space in the museum, generating public good. Next slide, please. So what does that mean mechanically in math? We did talk about this in the last meeting, but I think it's important to go over these facts. And then we'll talk about income limits and rents and how the affordable housing is for real hardworking New Yorkers. As of right today, it's zoned from 2005 for housing, the MTA site. I think I've heard rumors that people think the MTA site's supposed to be park space. It's not. The as of right could allow about 254 homes, market rate, no affordable housing. The dynamic also from the 05 rezoning is that the vast majority of income-based housing units have been at 130% AMI. I agree that it's unattainable as affordable housing. But even as of right today, with the results of the City of Yes, a measly 56 affordable housing apartments at 80 AMI or less would be generated by the site. However, what we propose is dense. Density unlocks affordability. 50% of the new floor area from what could be built as of right versus what could be rezoned is being used for permanently and deeply attainable affordable housing. We will go over the facts because facts are they are affordable. Affordable for whom? For working class people. That's an increment of 56 versus 460 homes. 25,000 units may have been built in the community. Only 11% or less have been at 80 AMI or less. That's not a high percentage of lower income housing units. I agree, a lot of luxury units have been built. We are trying to solve for a happy medium to deliver real affordability, but have market rate homes also that pay for an assemblage of public benefits. Next slide, please. So how is affordability defined? I'll go over the allocation percentages in the upcoming slides, but the vast majority of the homes we will generate within the 40% set aside are at the 40, 50, and 60 AMI bands. So 40 AMI, one person, 45,360. Two person, 51,840. Three person, 58,320. That's two earners potentially. 64,800. Two earners or three earners potentially in a four-person household. I'll skip 50 because you can see up at 60 AMI. 68,040. 77,760 for two person. 87,480 for three person, and 97,200 for four. Working minimum wage 35 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, one income alone would allow someone to nearly satisfy the 40 AMI. Moreover, any one of those bands, if anybody didn't make 40, 50, 60, or 80, if they were at 30 AMI or less, they have rental assistance, they get a lottery number, they would qualify. The housing will be attainable. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, 130 AMI is where the vast amount of income-based units have been created. So I agree, those are not attainable as defined for affordable housing. 40, 50, 60, and 80 AMI truly is. So delivering homes for lower income New Yorkers, not just CB members, not just Brooklynites, New York City, public equity, 1,150 homes. Yes, market rate, we have a housing crisis across the board. We need to generate market housing, middle income housing, and lower income housing. In the Western building, we will have 10% of the homes at 40 AMI, 10 at 60, 5 at 80. Our weighted average AMI is 56%. Only 11% of homes in the district have been 80 AMI or less, according to HRNA. The all affordable building, again, affordable units in both buildings, amenities access in both buildings. 80% of the homes will be between 40 and 80 AMI, with the vast majority at 40, 50, and 60 under the city's new construction program. In total, between the west and east buildings, 460 permanently affordable, not 50 years, not 60, in perpetuity, 420 at 40 to 80 AMI, the vast majority at 40 to 60. And 40 homes at 80 to 100 for income averaging to create financial sustainability amongst that mix. Moreover, we heard from the community, housing for families. 40% is our target for 2 and 3 bedrooms with a hard commitment of no less than 30%. Next slide, please. So let's talk examples. According to the Labor Bureau statistics and HPD data, let's give examples. A warehouse manager, married with 2 children, annual salary of $58,320 at 40 AMI is paying $1,685 for a 3-bedroom apartment. That's pretty affordable compared to what's being rented in the market. As I mentioned also, if one had rental assistance, that also would be accepted under HPD marketing guidelines. Junior graphic designer, single parent, $65,000, 50 AMI, 2-bedroom, $1,820. Apprentice plumber, single person, starting out in construction, $45,360, 60 AMI, 1-bedroom for $1,822. You can see the examples here. These are 50, 60, 70, 80% discounts to luxury housing in Brooklyn. Next slide, please. So what does affordability look like month to month? So we gave examples of what those household formations can look like. But you can see 40, 50, 60, 80 AMI, studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. The 60 AMI 3-bedroom at $25,27. That's 2 earners, maybe 3. 50 AMI 2-bedroom, $1,822. 40 AMI 1-bedroom, $1,215 to live on the waterfront of Brooklyn. Next slide, please. So we ask, what does a vote mean? Respectfully, we ask that the board consider an approval. We ask that if it's not an approval, it's an approval with conditions. And why do I say that? Because like I mentioned, we worked really hard to hear everybody out loud and clear and to find a place to move the MTA way. And that's off-site and to unlock that red blockade to the waterfront. It'll create resilient infrastructure. It'll create open space. The whole thing won't be open space, but there'll be open space. It'll create jobs. The museum will happen. The museum will also enable its land to be available to the public for open space and activity and historical appreciation of what happened during the war. Funding for the park, 460 real affordable homes, and investment in the MTA, which at the end of the day, they need the money to support the transit system. What's the alternative? Maybe it's not me, maybe somebody else comes in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that warehouse will be there, nothing will have happened, then we'll say, should we have compromised and worked together to come up with a result? So I say humbly, will you consider a vote for yes, even if you have a request for revisions? Is it more affordable housing? Is it more open space? Is it as is? But I ask of you, is a no a vote for progress? Or is a vote for yes, or a vote for yes with conditions, an opportunity to create something better than there is today? Thank you, board. Appreciate the opportunity to have dialogue and questions.
Okay, that's the end of the presentation, yes. So, questions from the committee? Steve?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I have two questions. First, at the hearing, the committee chair certainly requested renderings of buildings, detailed renderings, and the street views. And received a note today that didn't have those, and referred us to all of the DIS chapters to go through those. So it's frustrating that wasn't included in the presentation. And then regarding affordable housing, I understand that the application that we're contemplating today has the minimum requirement of 25% affordable housing with option 1 of mandatory inclusionary housing. And the additional 15% is something that Gotham has applied for through the HPD, but it hasn't been approved yet, nor has the subsidy been budgeted by the city. Is it just confirm that?
I'd like to refute the 2 points. We provided the chapter, which had the visuals via the letter.
I did specify that was not what we were asking for, that we asked you to provide the actual visuals. So.
Okay, they were in the chapter.
Yeah, I know, you told us that at the public hearing, and I said, rather than have people pour through this stuff, would you please, give us the renderings, because that's normally what's done.
Okay, the visuals are in the chapter. We'll now separately pull the visuals out and provide them. To your next point, we are going to enter into a large-scale restrictive declaration. The MTA has agreed to allocate a portion of its land for the additional affordable housing. And moreover, we have a track record. We will bind ourselves, whether it's a CBA or a large-scale restrictive declaration. And we've done this numerous times at the City of New York, including HPD, to create an all-affordable building in addition to MIH housing. Perfect example is the Broome Street development in the Lower East Side. We did an all-affordable senior housing and an MIH building. We rezoned the Innovative Urban Village in Brooklyn. 2,000 units of affordable housing. The zoning approval, Charles Barron, one of the toughest council members, the MIH said what it did. To date, how many homes do we have in the ground that are 100% affordable housing? 900. We are deeply committed We are legally committed. We are bound to spend the money. We've been doing business in the city of New York for 115 years. I'm not here to give you lip service and then turn around and not do what I'm gonna do. We're committed to it. We are committed to building this level of affordability.
Yeah, so, this is a response from the
HPD responded to us today. I just want to make it clear, so we all know we're on the same page here. With respect to the 100% affordable building, HPD told us that the funding for this building has not yet been approved, and which is typically done subject to construction, and the amount of the funding has not been determined. It would be determined closer to construction start and subject to HPD term sheets available then. So that's what Steve is referring to.
That's an assessment you will get from HPD that any affordable housing developer will tell you. Twofold, like I said, one, we can bind ourselves to that allocated land for that building to deliver the 40%. Two is we will spend the money to get that building ready. On Innovative Urban Village, on Broome Street Development, all those examples, built buildings, which I invite you to come tour with me, it was the same approach. We have HPD commitment letter subject to appropriations and financial review. However, we made commitments to the community boards, council members, and we made commitments in our large-scale agreements to execute so that you hold our feet to the fire. So, for example, I ask that you approve with conditions that HPD deliver the money so that we close on the building then. But we will control delivering that building. We're making a commitment to allocate the land and spend the money. And HPD will show up. They've showed up every time.
yeah, I mean, that all sounds great, but at the end of the day, you know, HPD has approved it, and the city council and the mayor have to approve the line item to fund it. And the mayor's now dealing with a $12 billion deficit in front of him. So, your track record aside, the landscape in front is difficult.
But like I said, the land is being allocated for all affordable housing building, plus the MIH. One can try and pull coals through our commitments. They're steadfast. We are going to deliver it. Could it get delayed 6 months? That's the nature of real estate development, creating affordable housing. The mayor's #1 priority is to solve the affordable housing crisis. The council member in this district is one of the greatest champions of affordable housing. If this gets approved, the champion behind this will be huge. Locally from your council member, I know he's pushing for more affordability, from the mayor's office who's pushing for affordability, and even if resources start to be scarcer, the city always relies on trusted entities that have built successfully housing in the past, with safety, labor, longevity, and financially sustainable affordable housing. And I will not waver from that commitment. We are going to build 40% affordable housing. If you want to push me on more, that's an open conversation. I am not wavering.
So, I also have a question, what happens at the end of the lease?
At the end of the leasehold, John, right, the housing is permanently affordable, so it stays in the building. The question is, does Gotham continue to have the lease, or do they RFP it to a new entity? Presumably, if we continue to operate the building well at the end of 99 years, they're just going to renew the lease. But they're not in a
Is there a
position.
provision in the lease about what happens at the end?
Technically, in any ground lease, it reverts to the fee owner. In any ground lease, unless there's a right of first offer. They're a public entity, so they can't give anybody a right of first offer.
I see. And what guarantee do we have that the museum will actually be built and maintained?
Firstly, we have the expertise to guide and support them. In the last meeting, we talked about, we built turnkey for Covenant House. brand new 80,000 square foot facility. We built for Chinese American Planning Council a new 40,000 square foot facility in the Lower East Side. We're building a campus for the Christian Cultural Center in joint venture partnership. So it comes with, first, the museum needs the right advisors. They have the right legal advice from Kramer Levin. They have the right developer to assist them. They'll have an owner's representative. They'll put a whole team together. They already have an architect, an FX collaborative, and the proceeds from the development rights are sufficient to fund the museum. Now I've heard comments, will the museum be 33,000? Right now they're focused on an envelope. The envelope could be that, could be a lot less, could be somewhere in between. I understand the concerns. I wouldn't want to run a museum myself. It requires a team. It also requires, to Arun's point, a community. It requires partnership. It requires that they come into this room and they feel comfortable. They feel threatened by something. They're in this community forever, fighting for that land, fighting to preserve that land while others try to take it from them. We will help them every step of the way. And when you say, how will I be assured of it? The open space all gets built and delivered in order to get one single temporary certificate of occupancy for one single housing unit. It's required under the zoning charter. So to get 1 unit or 1,150 units of TCO, we have to have the entire WPAA and Park Portal built. So that's the first part of the museum land. It gets built. The second part is, do they build the envelope or less? And who do they hire to run it? But I can tell you one thing, knowing Janice and George in that museum, they'll be there to the end. We'll make sure it happens.
And can you tell us what proceeds you will get? What are proceeds that are going to the museum?
I'm sorry.
How much is the museum receiving in proceeds?
It depends on what gets approved in terms of the total development rights. So that's variable, which would inform the size of the museum. If the project gets cut down, we're cutting housing units, we're cutting affordability, we're cutting proceeds for the museums. They have less money for the museum, less affordability, less total homes. I can't answer the question definitively because if the project gets knocked down in size, then maybe it's open space in a smaller museum. If it gets approved as is with the affordability, maybe it's the 33,000 square foot museum. So the answer is variable, and their council and the museum are here further to talk about it. But it's not a fixed price because it depends on how much floor area gets approved.
Okay, thanks. Any questions now from committee members? Corey?
Thank you for the presentation.
Do you want a microphone?
Can people hear me? Okay. Thank you. Okay, I have a question about the affordable building. So I understand that it's financed by HPD, but who is funding it? Are you paying that money back, or are they?
So it's two parts. The MIH building gets funded conventionally. I know you're in real estate, so I think you understand it's debt and equity. A lot of equity, a lot of debt. The all affordable building is possible because the MTA and Gotham collaborated to put, there's a lot of costs to get this development to happen. Okay? When you say, well, what do you mean? Well, the MTA is not just walking away. We have to spend $60 million to build them a new home. All of that cost is being allocated to the western buildings, which means the eastern building isn't really bearing that burden, right? Most of the ground rent is being absorbed by the western buildings, not a lot by the eastern building. So essentially, we moved most of the land cost to the western buildings, so that, like most affordable buildings, the land cost, all affordable buildings, is lower. So I'm getting to your capital structure question, but I'm trying to set the table, right? The waterfront cost, the western buildings through that density are paying for it. Riprap, bulkhead, open space, park portal, all of those costs are being paid. Most of the development rights paid for by the western buildings. So all affordable housing buildings usually have lower land costs, and they get funded with multi-family tax-exempt bonds, which generate federal low-income housing tax credits, and then there's HPD provides gap money. It's called the New Construction Program. It's how the majority of 100% affordable housing buildings get financed in New York City, either with the state, but mostly if you're in New York City, with HPD. It's called the New Construction Program. which focuses on deep affordability of bands from 40 to 80 AMI, but with a SKU of 60 AMI or less.
So just to confirm then, so when you say finance, you mean funded in this instance?
Federal tax credits, debt, below market, land cost allocated to that, that's correct.
And just a secondary question, because of the location of the buildings, how easy is it or how do you find insurance for them?
We own Gotham Point less than a stone's throw away, and it was designed the same way above the design flood elevation, and they're highly insurable.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question regarding the agency will be handling the low income part of it. How do you pick the agencies to handle your low income? I have an issue with that. I have an issue with how the agency operates. I think it would be it should be an open, how do you pick this particular agency you're picking on?
The agency responsible and assists of funding affordable housing in New York City is the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development.
Well, I'm talking about the agency's going to handle the lottery that I'm talking about.
Right.
The local,
We have not selected an entity to do that yet. However, we tend to work with local groups to do that.
did you mention, is there any agency local mention?
No, I think you're referring to, so when you run the lottery with New York City HPD, for MIH units historically, you hire what's called an admin agent, which the intention, I agree with HPD, it serves the local need to make sure outreach is appropriate, counseling, helping people get eligibility. And so, for example, in the Lower East Side, we worked with Settlement Housing Fund, which is a not-for-profit. So we would identify a not-for-profit organization that creates awareness, manages in marketing for it, creates well in advance notice of how it works. But at the end of the day, because of the demand for affordable housing, we would have to go through the city's policy, Housing Connect, which is a lottery system.
Well, I can answer the question.
Okay, I'm
There are
sorry.
many agencies in this community, Greater Wood One, those low-income housing. So how did you pick the name in the papers?
I didn't pick one yet. There's no entity named in the papers.
Is Lasuris mentioned something?
They're not mentioned to be the lease up agent, no.
Oh, I thought so.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Karen, okay, so, let's go Karen and then we'll go around.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question regarding the investment that the MTA is going to make into better transit infrastructure. My concern is really the burden on our infrastructure by adding all of these, people to the community. Part of the money, the investment that the MTA is going to make, for decades, we've been asking for a better G train. We had Save the G train, they cut our train, and I know recently that they have done some improvements. But part of this infrastructure money, can it go towards putting on another, car and possibly bringing the G train back to Forest Hills? So, if this is gonna happen, part of that infrastructure money should go back into our community and, the burden.
Don Boyd with the MTA. I hear you, and it's something that I'm just looking at. I'm the wrong person to speak to actual kinds of improvements in the area at the moment, but that is something that we can look at and follow up on.
Hi. Last time we were here, I asked how many jobs this project would create. Ballpark, could you refresh my memory?
Can you go back to this slide on local economy. I remembered your question and importantly focused on it, so there was a report.
Do you have any color and clarity with numbers? Thanks.
Sure, so I think what HRA and the economic firms do is they run like what's called an in-plan analysis. That's like me trying to explain how AI works, I just can't. It just does. But based on the volume of dollars that it takes to build a building, there's a correlation between the dollars spent and the number of jobs that would be generated. And so, and also the DEIS examined the construction period and the activities during the construction period, like foundation phase has lower number of jobs, superstructure phase has a lot more jobs because there's multiple trades on the site at once. And so the analysis was that 600 peak jobs would be at once, with 3,000 cumulatively.
Union?
Many, including 79, yes. Building maintenance, every building Gotham owns and manages, and someone asked me, press call, oh, did you make a deal with 32 BJ for the zone? No, I work with 32 BJ. I do. Why? Because bear with me, because my dad was a 32 BJ doing that.
Excuse me, this is a committee meeting,
Okay.
so if you're answering questions,
Okay.
you're answering the.
I'm answering the
speaking to
question.
committee, okay?
Transit jobs are retained because relocating the facility ensures that the operations have continuity and can expand. And then there are varying uses between the museum, there's some additional community facility space in the eastern building, and smaller format commercial spaces that could be for daycare or fitness or food or convenience. So that's about 70 estimated permanent jobs. But these were all sourced from HRA and the DEIS. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more. Actually, two more. Thank you for your presentation. The first question is, thanks for sharing the terms of the agreement with MTA. We can see that there's a 10% rent increase every 5 years. Would you be willing to make that same kind of commitment to the Brookfield Prima Park? Right? Would you increase the $300,000 annual commitment? And that type of a wrap?
It's under consideration. It's not a flat annual fee, so whether it's CPI or it's the same amount, yes, there's inflation for it. It would be many millions of dollars over the same life of the lease. So the answer is yes.
The second question, you've alluded to the fact that you'd be open to deeper affordability or more affordable units of the property or at the project, and the council members suggested that as well. So I think my recommendation would be that 50% of the units are affordable. They don't all need to be at 40, 60, or 80% AMI, but to see more than the mandatory inclusionary housing limits will be, I think, within my scope.
I think our goal is to present things to you that we think we can build. So I'm going to answer that question one more. I want to give examples. When we did Brook Street rezoning, it was approved in February 2020. COVID hit March of 2020. We closed our building in December of 2020. The All Affordable building, same premise, closed in March of 2021. Just an example, but financial feasibility also means long-term financial sustainability. We have a crisis of where we can overcommit on affordability and then we don't have enough revenue to offset increases in ground rent, increases in operating expenses, increases to the park maintenance, increases in wages on site, all creating good homes. So the answer is, if we could do 50, I would do it, because it's good business. But if I can't earn a return over cost that could attract capital, I gotta get a bank loan, then I've failed you. So I've got a land use approval, but I have no groundbreaking. With that said, if there's other resources to bring to bear, we're not against it.
Thank you.
I had a question about the timeline for the Box Street relocation, so you guys speak to that. And then, as far as the construction of the plant facility, are there any plans to use waterborne freight? You can speak to that.
So Box Street Park, the front door to it, which I agree, I heard at the last meeting, Box Street Park is funded. I think that's newsworthy, it's out there, it's great, it's amazing. The ERU, the Emergency Response Unit, sits at its front door, so it's kind of like having a beautiful home but no front door. Our first requirement, following a land use approval, is we would plan at either the end of this year or next winter to start construction on the replacement facility. So call it winter 26-27. That facility, off the top of my head, is about 14 months to build. As soon as it is finished, contractually the MTA must move off of Key Street and move into that facility. It's a lease. Gotham is never going to own this land. So we have requirements to perform. Means build them a new facility, get them off the site. As soon as they move into the new facility, that means the ERU is off the front door of Box Street. So that front door piece could be completed so that Box Street holistically as one isn't delayed for a long time. In terms of the second question, Simeon, you can answer that.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. I'm sure we're at the very early pre-development process. We have a concept design which we studied in terms of the DEIS. I think that was a question that was asked last time. Waterborne delivery of materials was not studied, but we will certainly touch base with our CM when the time comes on that. I think it's a good idea.
Couple questions. First, a very technical question. What is the square footage of the footprint for the modern museum? I was not able to get that.
Simeon says about 10,000. Right, if it's 3 levels, that equates to about the 30,000 square foot envelope.
Yeah, it wasn't in the DIS. So the Shore Public Walkway, who is responsible for building that? Is that Gotham or is that the museum?
Gotham, guaranteeing completing it and maintaining it over the entire life of the lease, and then runs with the land. So yes, us. We don't expect the museum to maintain that.
And that's, you're funding the construction of that, or is that coming out of the museum?
Mostly us, but the museum is contributing some from the proceeds of the development rights.
And glad to hear that you're maintaining it in perpetuity. What agreements do you have with Department of Parks on that?
Department of Parks knows that we're going to maintain it, and Department of Parks knows that we're going to make separately the starting $300,000 payment for off-site funding for Bushwick.
Yeah, I'm not talking about
Yeah, I know, but I'm just connecting the dots. But yes, they're aware that we're doing the maintenance. We're happy to work with Open Space Group that's local to do it, to assist us. We have to be in agreement of the museum and Gotham to do that. But it's open item, yeah. But we're paying for it. Yeah, and as per Gene counsel to the museum, in the restrictive declaration, the requirement to do the maintenance by the private property owner would be on us.
And that's a new restricted deck that would be.
Yeah. It's just the standard restrictive declaration for any water fund approval that is entered into with Parks and Maintenance and Operation Agreement, so that will be recorded against the property.
Okay, no, I was trying to figure, I just wanted to understand who was ultimately responsible for doing it.
Pursuant to the recorded restrictive declaration.
Thank you. Following up on one of Bill's questions, what will the museum payment will be if the project is approved as proposed?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What will be the museum payment? How much will that be if the proposal is approved?
It depends on what's approved. Like Brian mentioned, the level of approval, it'll be enough to fund the construction of the museum and the museum's portion of the waterfront open space.
Is there a range that might?
There is, it's subject to AG approval, subject to appraisal, but the actual economic terms, that's, private agreement between the museum and Gotham.
And then I have a question for the MTA. Regarding, sent us a letter today, and one thing to mention is, disposal of property must be for fair market value. But, in conferring with some colleagues, understand there are exceptions if transferred as a government or public entity. Is that something you can acknowledge, that's?
Yeah, I'm aware that there are some limited exceptions under the public authorities law.
Right.
Yeah, I'm aware that there are some limited exceptions under the public authorities law, for entity transfer property. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak in detail about what those constraints are, but yes, I'm aware that that is a component of the law.
So, yes, okay, so I can, go ahead, please. And then we can, I know Katie, you're not a committee member, but you're a board member, so.
I have two questions. One is, was there consideration to doing condominiums as well, or is it just all rentals?
All rentals, we're not condo developers, and also condos on leaseholds don't make sense.
Second question, I know there's a lot of anxiety related to the cost of housing in the neighborhood, and that there's been more and more development. It doesn't seem to lead to a decrease or stabilization of housing. Now, the argument could be made if no additional housing was made, what would have happened to the neighborhood? It would constrain it, right? The short part. In the council member wanted more affordable housing, and you're presenting a certain amount of affordable housing, at which, and I know you have to be your development has to be economically viable, at which point providing affordable housing does become economically unviable for you as a business proposition. And secondly, I know that providing more affordable housing means that the market rate housing goes up, which could have the unintended effect or of increasing rents across the board, because all the market rate housing. It's just a question I'm posing. I don't know all the metrics of this, but it's a consideration.
Yeah, I would say firstly on the supply side, for every unit of that housing added, if you look at city studies, many policy reports, for every unit added, whether it's market rate or affordable, we've been losing housing units. We've been losing affordable housing units. So we think a lot of times we're adding units here, but we've been losing affordable housing units through deregulation. This is permanent. That's part of the new solution in the last 5 to 10 years coming up with MIH and real permanent affordability to address part of that. Secondly, there's been a lot of market supply on a lot of industrious waterfront sites that hasn't displaced directly from those sites anybody. We need to create market units to ensure those market tenants are not trying to take housing from the working class. We're trying to create working class housing in the study area. It's in the DEIS. In the study area around the site, the DEIS, there's a circle around it. The average household income is $180,000. The average household income in the district, I think, quote me exactly, but I think it's $110,000, $120,000. From what I showed of the 460 homes created, most of those homes are for households depending on one person to four person, from 40,000 to maximum 100,000. So that housing attainability based on the incomes being served creates housing for the working class at rents that are major discounts to anything prevailing Brooklyn-wide in the market, or more so even locally. But we have a supply issue, and we also have an affordability issue. And the question is feasibility. You take $100 and you go to the bank, You say to the bank, risk-free, I'm gonna give you $100. What will you give me for 6 months? 4%. If you hold my money for 5 years, what will you give me? 4.5%. 10 years, 4.5% for a 10-year treasury. To build a building, to attract a loan and to attract equity, it's actually simple math. It's called yield over cost. Rents minus operating expenses. Before paying $1 to the bank, it's called your net operating income. Over your cost. So to attract money to build housing, you need to earn a 6.5% to 7% return to build the building, guarantee its completion, create all the jobs, creating the housing affordability. That's a risky investment. Going to the bank and giving them the money and saying, here's $100 of my dollars for 4.5%, 5% that I can get back tomorrow if I come into the bank, make 4.5%, 5%. So it's a lot of risk. You have to earn a minimum risk-adjusted return. So if I go from 40% affordability and go to 45 or 50, my revenue is going to go way down because now I'm renting apartments at $1,500, $1,200, $2,200, $2,500, right? The market we know is way higher. So now my revenue comes down a lot. My expenses are the same because I'm going to run the same quality, mixed income, affordable housing building. But now my 6.5 is a 5.5. I can't raise money to do that. So if you want to kill a deal, just ask for more affordability to the point that it doesn't work. If you want to try and make it work and bring more public-private capital to make those numbers work, then you could bring lower cost financing to it or try to bring tools. I can attest, if you look at what we do, we have a really good track record of finding solutions to create mixed income. We've done the Ashland in Brooklyn 50-30-20 and Gotham West 50-30-20, and all through different mechanisms. But I hope that answers the question, how do you determine feasibility?
Thank you, Bill. Not on land use, but I am the co-chair of the Parks Committee, so I have a couple of Parks-related questions. Just to follow up on some of the Parks maintenance conversations or questions that have already been asked. I'm pleased to hear that you're considering more than the $300,000 investment. If you compare that to some other developments on the waterfront, it's similar to investments in much smaller acreage than a 27-acre park, given the impact that this development would have on Bushwick Inlet Park. We've long been asking for increased investment, and my question is, have you looked at other developments adjacent to, or in some cases, rarely inside of a park, and the models that they have for increasing their investments? Or maybe most recently like Hudson Yards, right, where they have the city revenue is being restricted in order to pay for parks maintenance and have that long-term sustainable revenue stream toward the park. Have you considered those sorts of models to go above and beyond that annual investment is my first question.
We've considered all of the above. I think we look at our development and the park potentially mutually benefiting, meaning I think our development could be momentous towards the park. Land was acquired, sections have been built, sections have yet to remain. I think this is a momentous moment where they can intersect. I think it's clear, we heard it at the last meeting, including from elected officials, they want the park finished. So do we. So does everybody. This development alone can't do that. Could it potentially help harbor that goodwill to make it momentous? Yes. Could potentially we create a structure to assist further? Potentially. But it's going to take partnerships. It's going to take elected officials, city government, and everybody working together. So the answer is, I've been clear. We're going to be open-minded. We're going to have conversations, and we're advocates for this park. But I can't stand here and tell you that alone, 1,100 units, is going to be the solution to what I heard as a community that got a lot of new housing. We're part of it, but we're not all of it. And that's my honest answer.
My second question is going to be a response to the council member's call to finish finish the 27-acre park. So you answered that.
Thank you again. I know that there's been a lot of talk about the affordable housing units, but just so we understand the gravity of all of the units, could you tell us what the average rents that will be on the market rate side look like?
Yeah, I was pretty clear earlier that they're a lot higher than the affordable units. And like from your experience, you rent many of them, so the people working to get the affordable housing were clear that make 40 to 100. To qualify for market rate housing, you're gonna have to make 150 as a single, 250, 300 as a combined couple. So studio apartment, lowest in the building could be 3,000, higher could be 4 or more. A 1 could be 4 or 5 or more. A 2-bedroom could be 5, 6, or 7. So those units, so the model is progressive in that, called like the Robin Hood effect. Those with wealth are paying what the market can bear. In return, we're able to compensate for other factors, which is MIH housing, ground payments to the MTA, building the new facility. So those market rents are creating the overall viability. But if you said do 100% affordable housing or 75% affordable housing, the MTA would need to walk away from the land for $1. Someone else would need to build and pay for the replacement facility. That's the taxpayer. We would need the entire state allocation of bond cap for the entire year, and we would need hundreds of millions of dollars of subsidy to do it. So this is a community that has had migration of high earners who pay those high rents, and those rents are going to cross-subsidize progressively the deep affordability.
I certainly understand and appreciate that, and I do think that it makes sense on many levels. I was simply trying to show that, 60% of the development is, probably for the 10,000 a month, and, just to give the community an understanding of what the whole thing looks like. So thank you.
Not arguing it.
Now, I want to ask the committee members, does anyone, I was assuming we were dealing with both applications, but does anyone have special needs for any further questions on the second part of this application, which is to DMAP? No. Everyone's good with that? Right. So, then let's move on to our discussion. When we say vote, we mean discuss. But, okay, so, maybe committee members want to come up closer so that we don't have to scream at each other? I just want to thank everybody, you've all been great, so. Thank you. Thank you. As usual.
My husband and his mother were 32 BJ. Okay? Then my husband joined Local 40. Just retired last year. Let me tell you something. The 32 BJ is going to be here for 1 year max. And that's it. And that's it. That's it. They're playing you like a violin. Listen, I lived in 21 India. They weren't 32 BJ, and they promised 32 BJ.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone.
And then the 32 BJ got.
Okay, either be quiet or, I mean, it's, the committee has to, we have to be able to have some time to talk to each other. I just want to say this, I'm sitting here and I don't know if anybody thought, I'm not so sure that my thought is interested in criminality. And so many things. I guess I'm hearing.
Excuse me, if you're speaking, please leave the room. This is a public meeting. This is the committee meeting. We need to discuss this. And if you're speaking, you're not participating in this discussion, we need you to leave the room. Thank you.
Or just be quiet.
Right, you don't have to leave, just please be quiet. Okay. Last year we made it a point to meet with city planning, with HPD, and find out where we were with respect to, our responsibility to create affordable housing. And we were told that basically we're right on the top of the list. That many of the other boroughs have done very little, and that we've really gone above and beyond. Now that doesn't mean that affordable housing isn't needed. I mean, we heard during the public hearing, heard people talk about not necessarily how much affordable housing is needed in this community, but is needed throughout the city. And so I thought to myself, well, it's interesting to me that we were told we've gone above and beyond just about everyone else. We have stats, and I thought, why is it that we're not being rewarded by this is public land? Why are we not just rewarded by with getting public funds so that we could just have a much smaller complex and have it be 100% affordable, much smaller, and then money infused into the area. And so we would still be contributing to affordability, but how is it that we don't deserve some kind of recognition of what we've done? And you may all tell me because that's life, Bill. So that may be the answer. That may be the absolute answer that everybody is going to say here. But I just keep thinking about this, and I also keep thinking about the fact that we're whittled down to now, I think, 20% of the preference for the affordability, because of the settlement made by the city that I'm not so sure the city had jurisdiction over this district or any other district, but I don't care about the other districts. Because I don't know that we were ever made a party to that. So, Marty Needleman and I both agreed that in order for that to really be controlling over us, we had to be a party to that. And so about a year ago, I asked the board if the board wanted to pursue making the city prove that they actually did get jurisdiction over us, and that we do have to be, that we have to abide by that, the loss of our 50% preference. And, I mean, I still feel that I still would like to be as a reward for our having been so diligent to create affordable housing, not just for us, but for the city. I would love to somehow try to demand that the city, if there's gonna be affordable housing, that somehow the city, find some way to give us more than the 20%, preference. It's just my own single thought. I can't go beyond that because frankly, the board didn't really respond when I asked for this, and I'll bring it up again. But I'm still I still question whether they can actually force us to abide by that. I still question whether we were legally made party to that still, or whether they actually had jurisdiction over us. Just a thought. So anyway, please, everybody, let's start a discussion.
We have some historic. Thank you. So I have, first of all, just to quantify what you said, per city planning from 2010 through 2024, Community District 1 created 29,746 new apartments.
From when,
2010 to 2014. And from 2000.
So we created how many apartments?
29,746. And then between 2006 and 2024, the district created 3,900 affordable units. But I wanted to, I've done some research. I just wanted to provide some context from the open space angle. In 2005, this community board, in their response to the 2005 rezoning proposal, requested to go beyond the original 28 acres from North 9th to Bushwick Inlet to rezone all the parcels north of Bushwick Inlet to Oak Street to be park. And that included 40 Quay lots along Franklin and the current development West Wharf. Because that, if I understand it, that's actually where the Continental Iron Works existed and where the monitorship was designed and launched. So there was, they had to pay homage to it there, as well as developing the Monitor Museum on 56 Quay. The powers that be, the city planning and the city council inevitably passed the zoning that they did, which was just the 28 acres. But in terms of the residential zoning, initially, there was, Regina Meyer, who was in charge of the Brooklyn Office of City Planning during the 2005 rezoning, at a rezoning revisited panel workshop that North Brooklyn Parks Alliance held about 9 months ago. And she just spoke about how they methodically plotted out the density in the neighborhood. And specifically on West Street, and this all applies to Commercial and Kent Avenue, they wanted a sensitive transition from high density along the waterfront into the neighborhood and the park. So if you were to look on a zoning map, there essentially would be 100 feet from inside the westerly part of the west side of West Street along the street, and it continues through across Key Street into the 40 Quay lot. And initially, city planning wanted to zone a chunk of that R8 and the majority of it R6. But I understand that negotiations late in the game with the ULO, they decided to rezone the entire lot R6 to keep the low density, the sensitive transition, and protect Bushwick Inlet Park. And then fast forward to 2019, when the MTA released their RFP to entertain bids to redevelop the site with mixed, mixed income housing, especially luxury. The community board, based on a recommendation from the Parks Committee, unanimously voted to send a letter to then Governor Cuomo, copying then Chairman Floyd, that to cancel the RFP and that the best use for that land would be park. So I just want to note that was a resolution passed by the board. And,
I have that here, by the way.
Yeah.
So if we, so that's.
Can you use the mic?
That's the current, that's the current stance of the community board to, that MTA should withdraw or suspend its RFP for 40 Key Street and, for the MTA to engage with the community in order to come to an informed decision about how to develop this publicly owned amenity and together decide what would be best public benefit to serve the people. So that's our. Come on, people. This is not helpful, really. Sorry. On either side, it's just at this point, we've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters, and we've sat through, the public testimony. We've heard everything, but we need to be able to talk to each other now.
so in the,
So they'd have to vote this down, ultimately, if we're gonna change this.
okay. So part of as ULURP began for this application, a group formed called St. Inlet. And they generated a petition opposing this ULURP. It's issued a letter to Councilmember Ressler, Brooklyn Community Board 1, Brooklyn Borough President Tony Reynoso, and the City Planning Commission. And I just want to read the letter. But essentially, the number of petitioners, people who signed on to the letter, at the time was 4,047, just under 5,000. We, the undersigned, urge Councilmember Lincoln Ressler and all ULURP stakeholders to vote no without conditions on the upzoning of 40 Quay Street. This is a giveaway of public land to a private developer proposing 3 luxury towers, 21, 41, 56 stories tall, just 50 feet from the shoreline of Bushwick Inlet, one of the East River's only natural tidal estuaries. This land belongs to the public and must serve the public good, not private luxury development. We urge Councilmember Lincoln Ressler and other ULURP stakeholders to vote no without conditions on a monitor to appoint upzoning. Why we oppose this plan? Number one, it violates the 2005 rezoning agreement, which promises land would serve as a buffer and transition zone, not high-rise towers. Number two, steals parkland by requesting the city to remove park designation from an adjoining property to allow high-rise towers. 3, ruins Bushwick Inlet, just as the surrounding park is being completed after 20 years by turning the park and inlet into luxury amenities for luxury tenants. Number 4, luxury housing accelerates displacement, raises rents, and has failed to make communities, including ours, more affordable. Number 5, threatens a rare ecological treasure. Bushwick Inlet is a vital natural habitat in New York City's harbor and home to diverse wildlife. Number 6, adds 1,200 mostly luxury units to an overbuilt neighborhood with many more towers planned and without any infrastructure upgrades to support the increased density. Number 7, irresponsible planning that adds thousands of units to a coastal flood zone and devastates resiliency during a climate emergency. This is not just bad planning, it's the betrayal of the community promise made in good faith. Public land must serve the public good, not private development. And all I just add, just my own, is that, we have the 25% minimum requirement of MAH affordable housing on the table, and now the developer has made a commitment to 15% that still needs approval of the city. But just referring back to the stats of the amount of housing that's been created in our district and affordable housing, and this project is not being created in a vacuum. Like, you have this history of all this housing and a 2005 rezoning, all the development, all the organic as of right development is still gonna happen on West Street. And we still have this 27-acre park that was promised 20 years ago. It'll be 21 in May. And, you know, the timeline of finishing, I mean, the council member wants that from the city, but it's just open-ended because there's remediation and private fossil fuel companies who are mucking things up. So I think I just urge my colleagues to like consider, you know, the context of this application and the neighborhood and what the board, the resolutions they've passed, and the needs that they've expressed through resolutions. So that's it.
I actually have a question about the numbers, and I'm sure you're not gonna know it, but of those affordable housing units that we have in the community that community builds, what was the AMI? Is it truly low-income housing? And I think, for me, that has been always part of the problem. Okay, we got screwed when it came to that. I'm sorry, but now we have limited land left for true low-income housing. And this is an opportunity that for personally, and you've heard this over and over, I got pushed out of the community. A one-bedroom apartment is $4,000 in this community, and I'm talking about private properties. And this is an opportunity as far as the true income AMI requirements that maybe I would be able to apply and come back to my community. So I'm stuck in, you know, I understand the whole thing about the Bushwick Inlet Park and, you know, I have my issues with this plan. Like, the scale of it is huge. But as of right, we could get no affordable housing. And we don't have those properties for Bushwick Inlet Park.
Is that true that we could get no affordable? Don't we have mandatory now?
If they want to go larger, but right now, no. Right. 200? Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I want to hear from everybody else, but I'm just, we don't have many opportunities left other than Mass Fifth Avenue, or, you know, the development there. And again, we've been truly screwed when it comes to AMI. All of the waterfront is not affordable. It is deemed affordable housing, but it's not affordable. So I think this scale, and this is truly low income to affordable, it's our last shot, I feel.
And remember, at this point, without anything that I was talking about, we're down to 20%.
Right.
So
So
for this community.
390 Kent Avenue.
Exactly. So of these units, how many were actually able to come back and who's here? You know, that was pushed out, that is supposed to get purchased and actually didn't. So we don't have that information, you know. But again, that's my feeling. This is one of our, whether we start pushing, you know, for more affordable, that's one thing. But I support, you know, the Monitor Museum. I think we could use, you know, and push them to get the G-Train, an extra car, and, you know, other amenities, and the park. Without that funding, where were we gonna get the money for Bushwick Inlet Park in the first place? So, that's my feeling, my thought. But I want to hear everybody else. You know, I'm kind of, you know, stuck right now because of, I'm living in East New York. And I'm getting pushed out from East New York now with all the development that's happening there. And I'm looking, and it's not affordable. So where am I gonna go? I'm gonna have to move. So, out of the city completely. I'm serious, I'm not joking. You know, as soon as my landlord sells my building, that's it. I don't know where I'm going. So, this is our last opportunity for our community, and we just need to push, points that.
I guess I just, what upsets me is.
And you're right.
People
Other
keep saying
communities-
our community, our preference has been, our preference has been whittled down to.
Correct. I agree with you. And you know what? Other neighborhoods, we do need fair share. Other neighborhoods need to step up and to create housing. It shouldn't only be us. But you have to understand, we had a rezoning. Other communities didn't. So that's how
You're all
got
satisfied
started.
with that, but I just really want to remind people that we were, I don't understand how we were made a party to that. I don't understand how that jurisdiction was obtained over us, and I'm not saying it wasn't. They may have, even done it in a way that we just somehow, maybe the notice was technically properly served and we didn't know about it. I've gotten no information on it, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands when you talk about our community, you're talking about 20%.
You just point out the Gotham is offering maintenance and operation funding, not capital funds to build the park.
The issue with 20%, I wonder if we could, if we go through this project, I'm paying for low-income housing. How about we put in, there's a mechanism to ask the city to go for, make an exception on this project, to make that 50% local preference for community good, or community with one. I wonder if we put it into the request, the condition, at least the request to maybe consider that.
I think we could ask for whatever we want, but the city is in no position to grant that. They're under a legal agreement that says that they are limiting community preference to 20%.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that you and many of our neighbors are going through this. If we have the Gold Coast, that's further about this massive development that none of us can afford. The fact, waterfront view. A lot of our neighbors are not concerned with it. They just want to be able to have rent, not be rented. To me, this is not MTA property, it's the people's property. So I'm inclined to push it. And then the city goes against us, let's make the whole New York City know it's the city's fair, not Brooklyn City one. We're gonna push it, that's my opinion. It's the people's land, and we should ask for minimum 50%.
I joined the land use committee because I look at this from many angles, and I think that the housing aspect of it, when they moved it to 40%, that's a strong argument to say that that is a win for housing. But if you take a step back and you look at our district, how much housing has been built, where it's been built, and then the economics of it, to Dell's point, I understand that the economics of a project to say that, well, this is all we can do, but on the city site, why is that all we can do? Why can't we ask, if it is the city is financing this, effectively funding, as we figured out tonight, if they're funding this one building, why are they not able to do more? Now, personally, and I'm gonna take a step aside, because I do care about affordable housing, despite what some people might think in what I've been sharing. I just look at it from a perspective of land use, and what do we want Brooklyn to look like, and what do we want our community to look like, and does anyone look at Greenpoint and say, I think what we really need is a few more towers? I think
reasonable to say that we don't need to have over 1,000 units here. I think it's reasonable to push back and say that this is public land, so therefore we should be able to do a smaller building with affordability, and that it isn't just that this is the economics of it. You know, I think that we, as a community, with the 29,000 units that we received, and bearing the brunt of having more than the rest of Brooklyn, we have the ability to ask for more, and we have the ability to ask for less housing and higher affordability.
Sure.
Want to thank first Karen for speaking up, and I think that the rezoning side of this is really tough. I find myself agreeing with both sides. But I want to make one point, and so that we are clear in whatever we're saying. The 40 Key is owned by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, public authority. It's not publicly owned, it's not city owned, it's not state owned, it's owned by an authority. There is a difference. I think that there is a legitimate request to be made that, you know, this is property that was subsidized by public funding throughout. It was acquired with tax-free bonds. It was acquired with fare box money. However it was acquired, it was acquired with public subsidies, and it's reasonable to request that there be more here. But let's be very clear that this is not city-owned land. It's not state-owned land. It is something different, and whatever resolution we're coming to, we want to be correct on the facts.
Yeah, I agree.
Is this resolution that the board and city land voted upon regarding this property? Do we have to vote it down in order to change the zoning?
Well, the board would have to vote it down. In other words, we would.
That's what I'm asking.
No, I mean, the board would, because the stance of the board now is as I read to you, it's this, so.
So another question, if we, let's say, I'm sorry, let's say if we voted down the project or voted for the project, this resolution has to be voted down by the board in order to take any action that we're gonna suggest.
That's my understanding, because the board already voted on 40 Key Street. I don't know that, I'm not saying that that's a really big problem. I just wanted to know that the board did vote on this, right now, this is the current stance of the board, and that's, we would have to, we'd have to deal with it. I mean, we'd have to make sure the board understands that this is where the board is at right now, and now they have to.
I think that's actually something we need to double check. That is just an advisory letter, so there's nothing binding in it. So I think we need to wait before we say that it's something.
Well, this is what the board voted on. Now, I mean, you can say the board is only advisory, but that's in other words, this is what the board voted on. This was a vote.
That is the position of the board. If we take another vote in another direction, then we are by definition negating that position of the board. We don't need to go through the active step of voting that.
Right, I mean, but the board needs to understand the history of this, and yes.
Just to follow up. What was the date of that letter? That was a question regarding the history.
2019. I don't see this as any kind of something that would stand in the way. I mean, I can't imagine. Well, it's not a nothing burger. It is what it is. It's here. This is the current stance. You should know this is what the board voted on. They wanted They did not approve of the RFP.
So we would reverse the
Well, we would come with a recommendation probably that alters this and present it to the full board. Well, sure, then the board will either approve what we do or say no, because you're changing the stance that we had. And if the majority of the board says, no, we don't want to change that, then they won't have to, but, yeah. But our recommendation could be, listen, whatever we come up with, we think this should supersede the current vote, or the 2019 vote in the board, yeah.
I just want to mention, because at MTA, the public, MTA.
An authority, a public
Authority,
authority,
sorry.
yeah.
So, regarding, I mentioned before, the low-income portion of this, who will be handling the lottery. So I would like, if possible, the wording, how to do it.
Well, they
It
said
should
they
open-
did, they
it should
have.
open process. They have to pick anybody, but in many housing agencies in this area, I would love if this should be an open process. Who would you pick or how do you pick, it's a discussion. I don't know how we can use the wording about that, but I think you have to make sure you pick an agency that's really out there fully in helping people, not just for this project. I have my issues with some agencies, but I want to make sure that it's picked at a fair agency.
Thorough vetting process. They need to do a thorough vetting process, and it should be local within CB1. And transparent. And transparent.
Well, we don't have a motion to vote on. Are you, we don't have a motion. Are we? I don't think we're ready for a motion.
Let's go.
Simon, why are you in a hurry? Then you can leave, but
We've read so many times about this, on both sides. Everybody's daily concerned and some are for, some are against. I think I personally for low-income housing, and I understand the issues from both sides. I want to move forward. I think we should, we heard all years and the no's. I want to put a motion on the table to vote for this project, and then like a second.
But most of the people here have indicated that one way or the other, they would want conditions.
Okay, so fine, so I have some conditions. I mentioned about the perhaps 50%. You mentioned the issue of the low-income component. So I have a motion on the table. There's a motion on the table. I need a second.
We need, no.
So the motion is to approve the project as presented to the board, both the zoning and the mapping. And I mentioned the issue about the low-income, about the 50%, yes, in the city to do 50%, with an exception. Like they made an exception when they included Lutherburg 3 and Lutherburg 1 on a certain project. There was an agreement in the project triangle. The agreement with the city was that the 50% goes between two community boards. So the city could make exceptions, okay? So it's the same situation here. We want to put in an exception. We should accept 50%. This is one component. One issue, the other issue, as I mentioned before, is the low-income agency should be an open process. That is my conditions. Other members and others who want to add, let them add. But we got to move forward. That's my motion on the table. I want to approve this project.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. First, Simon, all due respect, this is the biggest rezoning we've had since River Ring. The biggest in our history. A lot of consequences. People feel really passionate about it both ways. I feel like our duty as board members is to do due diligence, have a conversation. We still have plenty of time in the room. And a lot of people, they may have conditions they want to put on the table. I personally think, just the large constituency here that wants open space on that land, I feel like we owe it to them to really kick ass in what we do. And first of all, I think we should say no and drive a really, really hard bargain. And all right, but we got to decide what it is. I have the floor. I have the floor. I have the floor.
Is anybody seconding this motion?
No, there's no second, so let's continue our discussion.
Either way, whether we know, whether we say yes, you still need conditions. So.
Say the condition.
Okay, wait a minute, Simon, I know you have something to do at 8 o'clock, but we're allowed to be here until 9 o'clock. And no, I mean, this is not how I choose to run a committee meeting. When people have more that they want to discuss, and we are not being physically kicked out of the building, then these committee members are going to be allowed to discuss.
Excuse me, Dale?
Yeah, this is an important
Actually,
issue.
15 committee members. That's how serious we all take this.
Exactly.
So everybody needs to have the vote.
Exactly. So, Michael.
Just to sort of have time calibration and hearing grounds for many good conditions here. More affordability, yes. More local preference, yes. I like Austin's idea that I heard more waterborne transportation of materials. It's the first time I've heard that. In this context, so I think that should be a condition that we put on the table. And also transparent process for the lot. Is that right?
Yeah.
And a one repeat.
It's all part of it.
Service.
Sorry, can you use the microphone?
And also you can talk about the scale of what the farms.
Okay, there you go.
I will definitely try to between the lines, but definitely I'm looking for no. But I think it should be a no with conditions like we did with River Rain. My biggest objection to this project is the big scale. I don't think it fits the scenery of what we envisioned when we zoned the waterfront. And although people try everything to maximize the most, but even with the affordable housing, so it's not that promising that we envisioned for 2004. And I think we all share the same consensus that we gave the city the biggest share, at least in Brooklyn, I think from the entire city. And now we should enjoy parks and much more than housing.
Yeah, just to sort of add to that, as a condition, again, just for everyone in the room, we are advisory, so, what we are saying is something that hopefully our council member will take into consideration when he decides how he wants to vote on this. And then depending on how he votes now, it could go to the borough president, the mayor, and the council speaker. But, so we can get a little pie in the sky. So one of my conditions would be, whichever way we go, whether it's a conditional no or conditional yes, with the citywide upzoning. And that would address, Isaac's concerns, Karen's concerns, a lot of the concerns that we've heard in the room about the fact that, we as Community District 1 have built a lion's share of the affordable housing in this city in the last 15 years. And the rest of this, there are many, many other parts of the city that have not done what they could.
I just want to add.
So what is your condition then, given the fact that we've taken on the lion's share of affordable housing?
Simply conditional on approval of a citywide upzoning.
What do you mean, citywide?
So, big apartment buildings can go everywhere in New York City. But city gas,
Another city gas.
city gas was pretty watered down.
Del, I just wanna go back to the meeting name.
Wait,
You mentioned that we're not being rewarded as a city one for good work we've done. I think we're being penalized for the good work, so that's the word I think should be used.
Yeah, we have been
You know, that's all. Thank you.
How are we being penalized? We're building houses. We're making housing more affordable. We have a supply crisis. We have an affordability crisis. We're saying, oh, the towers are too big, but we have 99% occupancy, 1% vacancy citywide. So and we've done our fair share. Let's lead by example. Let's build more housing.
You don't have the infrastructure, you don't have parks, you don't have roads, you don't have.
We don't have roads. I mean,
Can I respond to that? One of the chapters of the draft environmental impact statement is called unavoidable adverse impacts. So speaking of infrastructure, there are basically 4 vehicle intersections and 2 pedestrian intersections that will be essentially go beyond capacity, and there's no way to mitigate that problem. Like the traffic.
More traffic. We don't want more traffic.
Yeah, the traffic flow on Kent and Franklin is horrible. You know, so, yeah. And the subway, the short trains. I mean, people on the L train, you just hear passing trains. And yeah, and I just kind of reiterating what I was saying before. I'm with Isaac. I feel like we need to drive a hard bargain here and defend our district. I have the floor, right? Thank you. So I feel like the affordable housing numbers need to be high. The council members said healthy majority. To me, that's like they mentioned at Gotham Point and Hunters Point South, 75% affordable housing there on a city-owned site. I know there's nuance with the ownership of this property, but I feel like we need to aspire to, if we're basically, going to go against this petition, almost 5,000 people who want open space, who are embracing the history of this board, of what they asked for in 2005, then we got to have, it's got to be worthwhile. Like 2/3, I think, has to be affordable housing. Get a low income in there, not with getting assistance to get to the lowest AMI on that chart. So that's what I advocate for. And there are other provisions just related to, I think they mentioned it, but just to solidify it, is the public access areas at 56 Quay, the WPA, the PAA, and the Esplanade, and then Upland Connector 40 Quay Street must be completed and open to the public before Gotham receives their temporary certificate of occupancy from Monterey Point. And Gotham will be responsible for the maintenance of those.
Wait, say this again. Public access areas.
Steve, that's part of it. That is, I think, a requirement under the zone.
Yeah.
That they can't get a TCO until the open space.
Well, we could just,
But we can reiterate.
reiterate it, and also respond for the maintenance of
Wait,
those.
public, what are you saying? What are you putting as a condition? Public access areas.
And the Esplanade at 56 Quay, and the Upland Connector at 40 Quay.
It's in the proposal.
What's in the proposal, but is it in the zoning resolution?
It's fine to reiterate.
Yeah. Like I said, proposing is one thing, the zoning
Must
code
be
is another.
completed before.
Receiving their TCO from Monterey Point.
For any unit.
For any unit.
Okay. Regarding the museum, I feel like we're getting more confidence that this project will come to fruition, but we still, we don't have a programming plan, even an outline, a proposal, et cetera, and we'd like to see this project happen. I know people would love to say the museum would be cool, But I feel like we have to, consider what this board, this community's been asking for. So if the museum is not constructed on 50 Quay site, this property must be donated to Parks and Recreation for the purpose of creating a publicly accessible open space.
It's eminent domain. See?
No, it's
Why
donate,
would we
donate.
have it? Why
This
would
must
we
be
have
donated
it?
by the city.
No.
Yeah, but that's already privately owned by, you mean take away the
Oh, no, they would donate.
ownership from the,
Yep.
but that land, Steve,
Yeah,
that,
no.
let me understand, you're talking about the property that is currently owned by the museum, right?
That's right. Well, let me put it another way.
Well, why would we condition our approval of this with a condition that would,
Well, let
make
me-
them forfeit their right to that land? I mean, they have an independent right. But even if we were to turn this application down, the museum would still own that land.
But
They're, in their deed, they're required to build a museum, and I can't remember, there are certain restrictions on the deed. So maybe, it's a really poor way of putting it, but I think the worry is, Gotham's gonna get their air rights, and the museum doesn't get built in a cut and run, they'll get their 300,000 square feet of air rights to build apartments, and that land basically sits vacant without a museum. And so, yeah.
But not to take it away from them, not for them to donate it.
You could condition the TCO on the property. Since that is part of the corporation design for who is playing.
The Monmouth Museum Corporation, whatever that is, they own that land. That one parcel. 56, right? Yeah, so the Monmouth Museum owns that land. Now, as part of this application, they're selling their air rights. But let's say that this application was never approved. Well, the Monmouth Museum people still have that land, it's theirs,
Right, okay, I
think Ward's alternative, I think, makes sense, just tying the TCO to create a museum, because, again, the acquisition of those air rights is, it's creating affordable housing, it is creating stress on the park, stress on our infrastructure by adding, about 300 more apartments than would be allowed under just the vanilla R8. So I feel like, there should be, the community should be protected in that regard. If the city is going to give the ability to the MTA and Gotham to make a boatload of money off of their property, and I feel, with expensive burden in the community, at the park, there's 5,000 people who basically hate the way that, this thing is going to affect the park. And I feel we need to respect that. So I feel like there has to be something built in just to incentivize museums getting what they're basically giving up a lot of money for, or getting money for.
$710 million over the course of the week.
No.
That's the trade.
Right, but they're getting additional because of those air rights, that's what I'm saying. So, and I'm saying, there's a lot of people here who feel burdened by this project as planned. So I feel like, we should get the museum, we should get the, if there was.
But they're selling the air rights so that they could build the museum, otherwise they don't
And what
have
if
the
they don't?
funding to do that. So, as Warren just said,
That's what I'm suggesting, yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. Not to take it away.
Well, I think, all right, moving on. Regarding compensation, upon commencement of construction from Monterey Point and 40 Clay Street, Gotham Ward must make an annual payment of $600,000 towards maintenance operation of Bushville Park to Parks and Recreation for hiring park staff including gardeners and maintenance and personnel for support purposes. I understand the 300,000 number is really old, and it was a calculation based on a much smaller part of Bushwick Inlet Park. So just considering the future, and the park's only 27 acres. And that as Gotham did mention, annual maintenance payment will increase at a rate equal to the consumer price index of 3%, whichever is greater.
So you would want to, what's your wording? Increase?
Each year, the annual Bushwick Inlet Park maintenance payment will increase at a rate equal to the consumer price index of 3%, whichever is greater.
Why was 3%?
There was a number that, well, they just want to make sure they can ample.
Inflation is CPI. Yeah, what's CPI? That's your.
What is this deflation?
Then the cost of maintaining the park
Goes down, of course. Okay. All right, so strike the 3%, or 3%. And then before receiving
So
it.
wait a minute, do you have a condition here?
Yeah.
Are you asking to increase the yearly maintenance?
At a rate equal to the
For
consumer
Bushwick Inlet
park maintenance payment, at a rate equal to the consumer price index,
From 300,000,
600. That previous condition was a $600,000 annual payment. Each year it would increase by the amount of the consumer price index.
are you still asking for 600,000?
Yeah.
$600,000 yearly, plus
And then additional, or you could just make it one, and increasing it.
600.
$600,000 a year,
Uh-huh.
starting at 600,000, increasing at the consumer price index on an annual basis.
Consumer price
Before receiving its temporary certificate of occupancy for the new MTA facility at Meadow Street, Gotham Morgue must perform demolition of surface structures at the 65 Commercial Street section of Box Street Park and pave the lot.
Is anyone opposed to this condition?
It's before receiving their TCO for the new MTA facility at Meadow Street, Gotham must perform demolition of surface structures at the 65 Commercial Street section of Box Street Park and pave the lot.
At a minimum, you need to fix the timing because they can't vacate the building at Box Street if they don't have a TCO at the other building.
On receiving the TCO and transferring of the MTA operation from 65 Commercial Street to New Meadow Street.
For receiving its TCO for the new MTA facility.
And the MTA transferring their operation to from 65 Commercial to Meadow Street. Two parts of the requirement.
How do you want this to say?
Yeah, the whole point is that they could have their TCO, but the vehicles might, the operation might still be on Box Street, Commercial Street.
So say it again,
Before receiving its TCO for the new MTA facility at Meadow Street, and after the transfer of the ERU facility at 65 Commercial to Meadow Street, must perform the demolition of surface structures at the 65 Commercial Street section of Box Street Park and pave the lot. Because it lends up to the whole open space deficit in the neighborhood. Box Street Park was also promised 20 years ago. It may break ground at the end of the year finally. And one thing I want to mention, another chapter from the DIS is open space, that with building Gotham, building this project, the open space ratio in the study area will go down. And the numbers, I feel, are inflated because they're using the water section of Bushwick Inlet Park, which inflates it by almost 9 acres. So the reduction goes from about 8% down to 17%. So I feel like this is kind of compensation for the open space burden is to help with that lot, and since the MTA is connected to that. So
Water open space or not open space?
it is open space. It's another promised park that Parks Department owns or occupies.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Well, and the point
It
is,
just says it unlocks the door, it doesn't have anything,
yeah,
it doesn't talk
so
about what they're.
it's a huge step to transfer the facility, out of Box Street Park, but there's no capital funding to develop that half an acre of Box Street, so that's an opportunity, for that, so. And I have one more, and I guess I want to put it out there is the design of the building, 40 Quay. I personally feel like it's just oppressive and overbearing, just the size and the proximity to the park. And what's making it worse, I feel like, is the connecting podium between the two towers. And so if they were to remove that and then have the base of that site basically open, kind of like River Ring, I think it would be a better design and add a little bit more open space to use that area. You guys feel about that?
Strong, disagreement about. Usually you want to have, especially in a commercial zone, when you have a street, you have a sidewalk, you want to have building frontage. We all know parks, buildings, towers in the park didn't work, it never worked, it doesn't work, it's on the east side. However, I will say though, increasing open space is not a bad thing, it's just you need to be careful about where it goes. It should not be in the public interface where the street is or where people are walking. Sure.
Yeah, so let's go back to River Ring. It's almost a very similar sized project, 2 giant towers that are, some people feel oppressive. And they chose not to have a podium, they chose to have 2 standing, separated towers, and they mapped the street in between them, so it'll be open space, etc. And Greenpoint Landing sort of operates like that, with the 2 Blue Slip and Bellslip. So, and the 2 towers would have frontage where you have retail, etc. So I think it'll just open things up and also bump up the open space deficit.
I was referring to street frontage only, whether it's 1 story or whether it's.
Yeah. But those 2 towers still are fat,
So you're saying you would remove the podium?
Mm-hmm. And just have
freestanding towers.
3 freestanding towers with public open space between them.
Is there some reason why they have to have it?
Going somewhere. Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Are they larger towers, are they smaller towers? What happens?
Good question.
So what's the point of, why do they have towers there? What is the point of the tower? The podium, I'm sorry, the podium.
I mean, for one thing, concerns about sort of like the experience walking down the street on that side. We don't really have any like
have the presenters actually change the slideshow to the project as we're discussing it.
Is there a view on the other side?
No, no, she was showing me the view.
From the, open space design plan. No, we don't have it. Can you get to the DEIS? Can you get to the DEIS on there? Because it's in the, chapter that they were referring to earlier. Do you want to do one?
A lot more down. Let's get back to the top of the list.
Or it could be, you can make it a comment.
So which podium? Are you talking about this? So if they take the podium away, what does that do for, what's encased in that podium? Apartments, right? No? So what would the result be of removing the podium? Would they make the tower fall?
It is similar to the River Ring discussion. At some point, a tall building is a tall building, whether it's 500 feet or 600 feet. And the discussion here is, are we interested in the pedestrian experience and creating slightly more open space on the lot, which I think is what you were suggesting. All things being equal, if we're supporting the floor area, that floor area is someplace, again, is, if those are 100 feet taller, 50 feet taller, is that any more objectionable than where they are already?
Yeah.
And also, I would suspect that perhaps the architects maybe considered community concern about the height of the towers, and that's why there's a podium here right now.
So are we okay with them have them remove the podium to go higher up or one of the buildings?
Well, so that, I mean, I'm writing things down, that doesn't mean it's going into the proposal. I think that is, like I said, maybe we should be careful what we wish for.
Well, I'm saying instead of the condition, you comment.
But I think some people are saying they don't want that. I mean, look, Ward is right. Are we more concerned with the height or with trying to get a pass-through to create some kind of? I think it may just be Steve. Does anybody else want the podium removed?
I would just for a higher tower and more park space or open space.
Okay, so that's 2 people so far. 3. Higher tower versus maybe. I kind of think the more open space would be preferable. I don't know, would anybody really notice it? But, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a compliment of like 12 stories. Like 6 stories and
How big is it?
I'm not seeing the details of the design right now, but I would argue that the podium
architectural relationship of the building across the street. Yeah, and it creates a street flow. And the building across the street. I don't know, but.
It's nine.
I say leave it as it is and keep.
But the third tower, water point is 20, over 20 plus 20. There's no setback on the
I haven't reviewed it in detail, but I hung up with them.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go to the map.
Yeah, I would not go
But
with
maybe
that.
just
I
in
think I would
comments.
just leave that. I would leave that.
In the comments, just mention
I would leave it as.
Let's leave
it. I think if we start doing this redesign, we don't know what architectural issues we're creating.
So I'll go into third quarter review. I think one question we really have to consider, and I think you all know this, but it's either a yes with conditions or it's a no with conditions. Just kind of thinking through that. And you know, obviously it really depends on whether you're more in favor for the project, if you're excited about it or you're not. But you know, and really, which position has more leverage? Do we think that they're going to listen to us if we say yes with conditions, or do we think that the conditions are going to have more weight if it starts with a no?
No, we suggested no with conditions. And when we went to the full board, a certain contingency in the board changed that over to yes with conditions. So,
by 5 votes.
So, this committee voted no with conditions. When it went to the full board.
So,
I would be in favor of no with conditions, but.
I'm more of a yes and kind of guy than no but kind of guy. I think you're gonna get more, progress with the powers that be. If you say yes and we want this.
I don't agree, but I think that from what I've seen in the past, I think a no unless has stronger weight, but, what do you think? What do you think?
The difference between a no with conditions and a yes with conditions is people will walk out of here saying the community board said yes and nobody will mention the conditions, or people will walk out of here saying the community board said no and they will then start talking about the conditions.
I consulted with some advisors, I did consult with some of the people at the borough president's office when we were doing it. And the people I talked to did agree with me that you do know with conditions. That gives us a stronger message that the community board is really very serious about these conditions. I can tell you what happened is exactly what we had said would happen. Everybody went around saying, oh, it was yes, the community board voted yes, and our conditions were completely ignored. Or almost completely ignored. Not entirely.
Would they be ignored anyway?
Not necessarily, no.
This sounds like optics.
Yeah, just quickly.
And just the fact there was a closed contentious vote, I think sent a really strong message to them.
So yeah, it's been the practice of this committee to do no conditions when there's something that we have reservations about. And it's nothing tied with this particular project, but we've done this on other projects. However, I will say that, you know, we are talking about this, we're talking about conditions. You know, we know that it's not a reality that it becomes a parkland space. We know that no actually means that it is, it basically stays the way that it is, and also Box Street stays the way that it is. So there's some things, you know, to consider with that, but I'm still probably no conditions. But I'm very much, I can be swayed either way.
Yeah, you have to push back a little bit on it can't be park space. I think it definitely can. It would be the more challenging option. But, you know, I can't tell you how many people said with the city storage, whereas the park campaign, you guys are gonna lose, you have to make a deal, you know, you're gonna have to deal with tower in the middle of the park. And then, you know, 18 months after it started, the mayor invested incredible amount of money in that. Just, you know, just so, and then with Box Street, yeah, it would also be challenging, but, you know, the MTA, they can just get that facility out of there. They can just do it. They made $600 million in congestion pricing over the year. So they really have the will, they would do it.
Okay, so they're supposed to make $1 billion from that congestion pricing, and they didn't. So there's a problem with that already, since their bond rating is tied to it. But, I mean, just really walk me through how the NPA makes that a parkland. Walk me through exactly how that happens, because I don't see it as something that is possible, and I don't think it's something that we should, it's just, I don't think it's responsible to entertain it as something that's possible, unless you can show me or explain to me how the NPA makes that a parkland space.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't do it. They would essentially, like I read earlier, they would have to transfer the land to another government entity. And there are huge grants, the Environmental Bond Act, where they've involved huge park and resiliency projects upstate. So it would require that type of thinking and investment and challenging, but I feel like, you know, if you know, some of the park projects like the Newtown Creek Nature Walk took over 20 years to create, and I think they finished the final 2 phases.
We can wait.
Yeah, right, we've waited this long, right? So, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like, you know, this community, they're tenacious, we fought, we defeated so many power plants, and waste transfer stations, and incinerators, and you know, defeated a power plant, 1,100 megawatt power plant over 9 years, where the tank farm was in Cushman Park. So, people really want, and then there's the climate change issue that, you know, just kicking the can down the road with storm surges that, you know, the average sea level rise in the harbor keeps getting adjusted up. First it was like a foot up.
I don't think this answers Austin's question, though. He asked, how does the MTA make this a park? And I don't think...
Yeah, I gave a number of examples, but I'm saying climate is a way that incentivizes our government to...
You're saying the MTA should give their land away to some other agency. We're back at this, they should donate...
Well,
it's not realistic.
Transferred, and then there'll be compensation and somehow they're spending billions of dollars to fortify the east side of Manhattan and the Battery.
That's outside the scope of this.
Well, it could be the scope in it if they make that investment in Williamsburg. The Army Corps of Engineers left, you know, the whole district south of Transmitter Park as their plan. So this is an opportunity piecemeal to work on that.
Michael, unlike the Monitor site, the MTA site is governed by public authorities law, and what Steve pointed out earlier, the public authorities law requires that they either sell it for the highest and best price, or that they can sell it at a lower price to a government agency. So the MTA actually is allowed to transfer this site to a government agency for money, but not for the highest and best price. So it's very different than the privately owned parcel immediately next door. That said, I think that if we are discussing a no with conditions or a yes with conditions, we're not discussing parkland on that site, because the conditions are all about the development and the viability of the development, and how we'd like to see that change, rather than saying outright no, we don't approve the rezoning because that should be parkland.
True. That's right. And remember that we're only advisory anyway. However, it is my sense that I know with conditions, our conditions will be taken, will have a stronger impact than if we say yes. It's just from my experience. I mean, I guess I've been doing this for about 15 years, and this is my last year, so.
But that's up until recent, huh? Okay.
It's 20 of, and Simon made a motion, but he left, so he cannot entertain any friendly amendments, so I think we need
before that, I want to be clear on the conditions. Okay, let me just ask though on these that I have. When we're talking about waterborne transportation, I thought you were talking about using waterborne facilities for bringing in the construction. Is that what you were talking about? Okay, not that they had to provide more waterborne transportation, but more waterborne transportation for construction.
Meadow Street or both?
Okay.
Do that backwards.
Okay, thank you. And then, wait, and then when we, affordable housing,
You've decided a number for.
CD one, so we're not going, I take it we're not taking, we're not having a condition that, that there be citywide upzoning. But apparently nobody else wants it.
We do.
Who else wants it? All right, I'm fine with it, so.
That's a huge discussion.
So,
Unless you consider Greenpoint Williamsburg the poster child of that, that failing.
so you're saying in light of the fact that we've built so much and gone way overboard in our share of affordable housing, there should be citywide upzoning.
Well, that's the point of.
Rezoning.
The new zoning.
You know, they will or will not pay any attention to that, whatever, but if everybody agrees, we can put it in. In my experience, we can ask for whatever we want. They will pay attention to whatever they want to or can. But what we are doing is we're giving the city council and the borough president some ability to make demands, because the community, if we do it with no conditions, say, look, the community boards, they said no to these conditions, and then, it gives them more of it strengthens their ability, I think, to negotiate on behalf of the community. Or if it does, and another way of thinking of it is, it will come out in the press that we say no, but with all these conditions. So, hopefully the electeds will not want to just end on everything, because we've publicly stated that, we have serious reservations. So, no, I'm just saying this is, we're asking the difference between yes. All right, so somebody, you have another condition.
Well, one other condition I would like to see included is some investment in the greenway. We talked about it at the hearing a little bit. That they rebuild the greenway in a really robust way, like more than just King Street Green, but like rebuild it so it's like grade separated.
You took it in front of their.
Yeah, like all around.
I thought that was part of the capital project. What's there now was supposed to be temporary, and DOT was supposed to come back with capital, but yes, you can put it in. Let's put it in, but I just want to point out that that's something that we should be going back to DOT and saying what's happening.
So, what are you saying then? Are you saying
Put it
DOT
in.
needs to rebuild when that conflict?
There was supposed to be funding, so what was there as far as the greenway was temporary until they got final capital improvement to do the higher grade. And then there was a lot of construction that was going on West Street, so that's why they're not gonna put the permanent structure in if it's gonna be bricked up.
So how do you want to voice this? What do you want to say?
I think we should just put it in as a condition for the developer.
Say what you want to put in there, tell me the words you want.
Oh, that they rebuild.
Who's they? The city?
The applicant. Rebuild the greenway.
On the block of King Street or where? Pretty small street.
Yeah, I guess anywhere,
The applicant must rebuild the greenway in a robust,
Great.
grade.
Yeah.
In a lot of the developments, on West Street, construction vehicles have blocked the bike lane on numerous occasions, so to have awareness to not block the bike lane.
The applicant, how do you want them?
Applicant will be sure, to maintain and, not to inform trucks not to block the bike lane.
So they will maintain the viability of the bike lane? Maintain the bike lane.
Unimpeded by truck.
Great. Unimpeded. Okay.
I thought of something else.
Okay, we got 10 minutes, guys. This is it.
I just remembered about the waterfront public access area. There's one part of it that's going to be reduced below the required 40 feet. It's going to be 30 feet. I feel like we should push back on that. They're already going to have an open space deficit. To 30, from 40 feet to 30 feet. In front of the monitors.
So what is the condition?
That they don't know that. They keep it, they keep the entirety of the WPAA. The waterfront public access area.
Public area.
Should remain 40 feet should be in its entirety.
40 feet in its entirety. Can I have a vote? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'm not sure if, is this motion on the rezoning? I just wanted to point out, with the demapping, I would be opposed to demapping outright. I think that the board should fully support the Monterey Museum in developing this site. But if the Monterey Museum is ever to leave the site, having the mapping in place would allow the city to acquire the property and make it parkland. We asked the question at the public hearing, and we've also asked Borough President's Office. Johanna has gotten responses as well. The mapping, keeping the mapping of parkland on that site does not impact the project in any way. It's simply a desire on the part of city planning to clean up their maps.
That's correct. We've gotten that response. I would agree. I would agree that we oppose the mapping and that we then vote no unless certain conditions are met, and all of these conditions are met. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, how much affordable housing are we demanding?
We're demanding 50%.
Come on, guys.
We're
Let's,
demanding 50%.
let's people.
No
Let's
compromise.
let the council member negotiate. I feel like we need to speak in the community. And again, all the people who wanted something else on this land, I feel like we owe them, if we're gonna go for affordable housing instead of open space, then it should be worthy of that, like 67% or something, or 70.
So there's the other publicly owned site on the East River that we're going to be discussing at some point. And this is one where there's actually a lot more flexibility for something like 100% affordable.
On Kent Avenue?
Yeah. So I actually think that we should push for 100% on this one. You know,
This one?
yeah, it's a statement. No, on this one. To show consistency in what we're asking for, to strengthen our position in what we're asking for on Kent. Again, you know, it's ultimately up to the council member. So what he negotiates, if he comes down from 100 and it's something that works for the developer and that's what makes the project happen, it is what it is. But thinking about how this committee works and for the future of discussing the Kent Avenue site, that's why I think we should go for 100 on this site.
Well, I mean, as I I think that generally speaking, the project isn't good for the community except for the affordable housing element. And I see no reason not to push that. I see it as a negotiation, so, 100% is a statement. I'm also fine at either 65 or 75%, but I see that unless this is the majority affordable housing, I don't really see why we're taking this environmental important piece of land where it means so much to our community and, then using it. So I'm on that side of things, but I'm open to others' opinions here.
That's kind of what I was saying in the beginning, which I figured I was the only one who felt that way.
I read studies on that mixed income housing is sometimes better because people with lower incomes live next door to people with higher incomes, richer people, they nanny for them, they help their dogs, whatever, and then they get the social connections to get a leg up and climb up that ladder instead of just being surrounded by people of uniform lower income.
Well, I don't think we're getting, I don't think it's a transition push for
I don't.
And just reiterate that the council members that you won't support the project was a healthy majority of affordable housing. So 50% is not healthy, that's a weak amount of the majority. It's not even a
What
majority.
about 75?
Yeah.
How about 75, which we're not gonna get? No, I mean, look, we're not, but it gives us a strength. But we can ask for 75.
Impressing upon 390.
I do, look, the concept of having the market rate and the affordable together, this is why we fought so hard against the segregation and for integration. If we're gonna have to have the market rate, and we certainly have a lot of it. Let's come to some kind of an agreement here as to how much affordable we want. Can we agree on 75? Yes, no, can we, Michael?
Is it 67 or 75?
Can we agree on 67, guys? No? 67? Oh, it's a me? Okay, no, 67, sorry. Okay, 75. Apparently 67 is some kind of a meme. All right, I'm a dinosaur, I don't understand. I'm gone. Well, let's agree with the percentage of affordability. Let's get it. Is that okay? And we want more of a local preference. Do we want to just say more than 20%, or do we want to say 50%? 50%, you say for 50? Let's do it. Okay, make the motion now.
Can I motion to say no with conditions that Del has written down?
Yes.
Del, do you want to go through them?
And also voting against the.
Voting against the email.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Second.
Okay.
So we're putting the two mapping
Yes.
Well, no, but that's just a no.
The mapping is no, so if you want, we can go twice, if you feel better about it. So we can vote twice. Okay, so this will be the first one, the rezoning. And the conditions are that we have 75% affordable housing, 50% local preference in light of our strong performance in increasing affordability, that there be waterborne transportation construction, a transparent process for lottery, that you increase the number of cars in the G train, I'm sorry. That in light of the CB1's past performance in building and taking on more than their fair share of affordability in the city, there'll be citywide upzoning, public access areas and Esplanade at 56 Quay and 40 Quay. He must be completed before receiving a TCO for any of the units. Condition TCO on creation of the museum. Increase yearly maintenance of the park payments from $300,000 to start at $600,000, increasing equal to the consumer price index on an annual basis, increasing on an annual basis. That before receiving the TCO for the MTA facility at Meadow Street, and after the transfer of the ERU facility, Gotham must perform the demolition of surface structures at 65 Commercial Street, section of Box Street Park, and must pave the lot. C, Greenway along Keys Street must be, that the applicant must rebuild the greenway along Keyway Street in robust grade separated when the applicant will maintain the bike lane unimpeded by trucks, and the waterfront public access area should remain 40 feet in its entirety. That's it. Okay, so we have a vote. Let's do the roll call. Luis will do a roll call. And this is no with the condition.
No. Motion by Uricanti, second by Mr. Vega.
Yeah, no, 40 feet, yeah.
Ready, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
Delty,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Rosana Kaminsky. Ward Dennis.
Yes.
Matthew Isaacs.
Yes.
Kate Kawaguchi. Paul Kelterborn.
Yes.
Kawhi David Muirman. Austin Firth.
Yes.
Isaac Sofer.
Yes.
William Vega. Simon Weiser. Corey Canty.
Yes.
Michael Kawachka. Karen Harris. Jorge Zagala.
Yes.
Yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, 0 recusal, motion passed.
I would make a motion to vote no on the parking mapping, and asking the museum resolution to support the modern museum and our display.
Who seconded the motion? Delty,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Rosana Kaminsky. Ward Dennis.
Yes.
Matthew Isaacs.
Yes.
Kate Kawaguchi. Paul Kelterborn. Rabbi David Muirman. Austin Firth.
Yes.
Isaac Sofer. William Vega. Simon Weiser. Corey Canty. Michael Kawachka. Karen Harris. Jorge Zagala. Yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals, motion passed.
Thank you, everybody. We're ready to get to you again. Just quickly, we don't have to discuss this, but remember that tonight, I wanted, we've asked city planning and HPD, or is it HPD or city planning, to come to talk to us about having a coherent, city planning. We've asked city planning to come and talk to us about having a coherent plan for redistricting these manufacturing lots that are surrounded by residential. So everybody think about what you would want to either say or ask, and then you can even maybe email each other, and then I'll see when they can come and talk to us, okay? Yes.
Wait, you sure it wasn't that one?
No. Yours was, all the time.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I promise I'm gonna set it up.
You're so good.
So let's get another calendar. Thank you.
So just for new business, do we want to entertain a censure of the board chair for the land use committee meeting?
Oh my God, this not to this.
The public hearing?
Do we want to do that?
Or save it for new business in the full board meeting?
Do you want to like
Some people want,
trying to link the public hearing on this with a committee, land use committee meeting without, I mean, basically over my objection because there was no appropriate yet. It just sends a message. Violated by
I'll support that one.
Okay, so we want to do a motion?
I make a motion to.
Okay, censure the. Who, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Opposed? No? Okay, thank you.